Tēnā tātou planting seeds, no mai hoki mai. We're in this Waitangi series, and sitting across from me is someone that you will probably recognise. If you don't recognise his face, you'll recognise his kākahu, especially if you're a hunter-gatherer like me. My brother Tāmati, no mai ki tēnei whare kōrero, bro. This has been a long time coming. You know, we've been aware of each other and have awesome connections when we do catch up, so it's good just to be able to sit across from you and drop into the wānanga. But we're here in your neck of the woods for Kaupapa that your wahine told me that you've been coming to Mairano. And so how are you first and foremost, brother?
Paena, bro. You know, there's a lot going on during Te Wiki o Waitangi for us as councillors for the Far North District Council under the leadership of Mea Moko Tepania. So in terms of preparing for this week and ensuring that we tautoko mana whenua, te mata rahurahu, Ngāti Rahiri and Ngāti Kawa, that's a huge task. It's something that we've never seen in the past with this council. And I think that a lot of councils are actually looking towards us in terms of how we support and we navigate a pathway that ensures the safety and putting mana whenua first and foremost. It's always a big kaupapa leading up to Waitangi. For us up here, we call it Waitangi Week. I know that the rest of the nation call it Waitangi Day, but for us, it's Waitangi Week. For the haukainga, it's Waitangi year in and year out. So I really have to acknowledge and mihi to the haukainga who host the multitudes who turn up, who ascend upon Waitangi each and every year, and the way that they host people. You know, I think about people who come to my whare, man. I'm like, I've got to make sure we've got tea bags, we've got milk, and these fellows, like, they got to make sure they have a million things in place, and you would never know that there are any koho, any holes within the way that they plan their schedules and the way that they host the multitudes who come here, right from the ministerials and central government and parliament, right down to our whānau who live just over the hill. So I just really want to mihi to our whānau who host us here in Waitangi.
When you're here, you don't really think about, what does it take to have this on, eh? You know, for people who are on the outside,
absolutely.
You know, it's just like coming in, this is cool, this is a nice flow. This is something kōrero up here. And so there's a nice organic flow, and there's no sense of having to think about anything because the haukainga or the mana whenua have looked after all of those nooks and crannies, and because this has been going on for years, they've fine-tuned things really well. And before this week, there's the iwi cheers, is that right, bro? So that's happened up here as well. Is that related to Waitangi at all? And why is it that early?
I guess it segues into Waitangi Week. You know, a lot of the issues or the topics that are discussed within the iwi chairs forum relate back to what the current government of the time is doing. And it's just like any normal meeting, you know, you have your formal resolution, then someone has to move it, second it, and then everyone has to support. There's all those sort of aspects, and you have your leaders from each iwi representing you and the kaupapa that are very important in terms of economics, resilience, and sustainability within your iwi, your hapu, and your marae. So it does segue into all the kaupapa around Waitangi. And then obviously we have central government who come here and they promote themselves, I guess. You know, we're in 2026, we have elections coming up, not local body, but the central government elections coming up. So it's a chance for them to actually showcase from central government perspective how they're going to be helping out te iwi Māori. We're just over 1 million strong now, so it's a really, really big kaupapa. And I actually look forward to hearing some of the kōrero that's going to come from iwi chairs and what they're putting forward to the current government of now.
Meke, bro. And so have you been in, I guess, counselling positions, and how did you even get into it, you know, because you're on the Māori ward up here, is that right, bro? And so now you're actual counsellor and you've been in that space, and is that like for someone who sees your actual mahi Taiao, I only just learned that you actually a counsellor just more recently, bro, you know, and so can you talk a little bit about that part of your huara?
Yeah, I mean, we, like you've said, bro, I've been coming out to Waitangi since Mairano. Actually, a lot of us from the north have been, and you can see it within our tamariki mokopuna in the here that are growing up now. You see them doing the waka, doing the pōwhiri. And we also, and just to acknowledge another important signing as well, as in Waimate after this, and in Mangungu on the 12th, and in April up in Te Hiku or Te Ika. So we still have a lot of kaupapa that comes after the fact of the 6th of February 1840 and to the present now. But I actually never had much interest if I think about it, around politics, around local government and central government. Moko's actually my nephew.
True.
And so in 2022, when we had our local body elections and we got Māori wards over the line in 2021 as well, thanks to Mea Moko Tepania. And so yes, hustling man, you say, it's going to be really cool. And you got some really cool ideas and, you got some really good connections, which is important when we talk about council and mana whenua. We're just over 52% here in the Far North District of Māori. And so I managed to get into council, and what a journey it's been,
True.
What a journey it's been to turn the whakaaro within local government to say, hey, we've always had our whānau Māori here who are actually open and willing to progress forward to be able to utilise whenua Māori or to be able to assist council with a lot of the policies and the red tape. And so actually we as Māori ward councillors and the majority of Māori within council, I describe ourselves as being the bridge between local government and te iwi Māori.
True.
Yeah, and like early on, I said that a lot of councils are actually looking to us of the Far North and how we've been able to interpret a tangible and practical outcomes that serve everyone within each district throughout Aotearoa.
Yes,
it's been...
What does that even look like? Because that's a good point, tangible and practical is a real good place to start for people who don't even understand what you guys are doing in council. Because everyone has their own things around, like, man, it'll be better for this, it'll be better for that, but no one really knows how or what it takes to make that happen. And so when you talk about practical and tangible ways, like, what are some examples that you guys have initiated over these years, bro?
Yep. So, I mean, in the Local Government Act, it talks about how local governments, how councils are supposed to acknowledge or have te tiriti o Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi, as part of their policies and their vision, their strategic policies, their long-term plans, their annual plans. But it's all just on paper, bro? It's just written. It's saying that, yes, we acknowledge that we have mana whenua, that we acknowledge and appreciate that we have te tiriti o Waitangi as our founding document. But as I said before, what does that look like in practical and tangible terms? And so when we got in, I found out that, and big mihi to Nanaia Mahuta as well, is that she amended our whenua Māori policies to allow for whānau to actually have the rights that they were supposed to have for a very long time. And so that means that we were able to instill policies over an 8-year period where whānau who wanted to build papakainga, where for the first couple of years, they didn't have to pay any rates at all. They could do that over an 8-year period, building up to 25%, 50%, and so forth until they had to pay the 100% of the rates for their whenua until their papakainga is finished. It looks like we actually have the power in all local government and all councils to actually wipe the rates on whenua Māori, because a lot of whenua Māori, our whānau aren't actually living on them, but they're still getting rated for it. And so a lot of whānau or trusts now have big 100,000, millions and millions of debt on whenua that they're not actually living on, that they're not making a profit of. But we, as the local government, are still trying to put them in debt. So what we have the power to do, and what we've done over the last 3 years, is we've actually wiped out just over $12 million of Māori debt sitting on whenua Māori within the Far North District. So that's what I mean about tangible outcomes. That's been in there since a long time ago, bro. And I'm like, why has nobody seen this? Why haven't you done that? So I've been really a huge advocate for that in the Far North, getting my fellow councillors on board, getting our Mea Moko Tepania on board. The hardest part has actually been changing the whakaaro from our staff to be able to instill these policies and get out there on the road. Get out to Ngā Marae, let them know, educate our whānau. Hey, you guys can apply for this. We can do it for you. We just need your trusty details. That's all we need. So it's pretty crazy.
Man, that's so mean. So the fee that whānau who are on Māori land, they have been paying rates where they really didn't have to. Is that what you're saying?
So whānau that aren't living on that whenua they're still getting billed
for it.
Yeah. So they trust, because we have 100 shareholders, all that sort of stuff. And so, I mean, when we look at kāinga kore, when we look at whānau who are pohara, who are staying on the streets, I see our whānau Māori and I'm like, cuz I'm sure you're a part of
some
this
kind of
trustee block.
Yeah.
You have the potential to move back home, but our whānau don't know that. And it's really distressing. So that's a big part of
that's some pretty impactful mahi.
Yeah, I don't want to say the conversation either, because that's just talk. That's part of our mahi, to be able to get out there and educate our whānau and say, hey, we want you to get back on your whenua. And even our whānau who don't want to use the whole 100 acres, for example, we have a policy where they only have to pay a percentage of the depth, not the depth, but a percentage of the rates for that little block of whenua.
Right, so it's not the whole block.
No, so that's another part where we've said, well, we want whānau to move back, but we don't want them to have to pay for 100 acres. We just want them to pay for 1 acre, because that's all they need for their whenua.
And this is why we need Māori wards, whānau.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is why we need Māori wards, is because we've got people in local government looking at these policies that could actually support us rather than not knowing at all, because that's one of the biggest misfortunes. Is ignorance, and if you don't know, then you don't know.
Absolutely. And like I get I get where Taiwi, where Pākehā coming from, where they're like, why can't we have rates remits, or why can't we have our rates wiped on our land? Well, the thing is that their land hasn't been stolen from them and it hasn't been gifted on to someone else. Part one. Part two is that when we look at the rates that we cover across the whole of the districts, actually, if we get whānau back onto their whenua and paying rates, that actually lowers the overall rates increase that we put on our ratepayers each and every year. So that's actually
bringing it down.
Yeah, so currently, 2 years ago, we had $20 million worth of debt on our ratepayers that we had to try and find money for. If we get our whānau back on our land, in Te Taitokiro, in the Far North District here, we'd have just over 17% of Māori land that's available for our whānau. If we can sort all that stuff out. That's going to be a long kaupapa, but hey, we've started,
man, and that's so mean, even just to hear the numbers, but also just some of the findings.
Yeah.
And that's also been like, I wouldn't call it a trend, but there's been more of a interest or pull for whānau to actually create papa kāinga on their whenua. And it's so mean to see, man. It's so cool to see, and you can feel the oranga in that,
Absolutely.
Because rather than the model that we have, and one that I'm even in, is like, you've been raised in a whare, then you get to a certain age, then you move out, and then you do your thing, and then you have kids, and then they move out. But rather than just having that space of like communal living, as opposed to like the Western way of how.
Oh, cuz to be honest, I was like 25 and I was still wanting to sleep in my mum's house. There's like my younger bros, they're taking the bedrooms and everything, and I'm like, oh, good mum, I'll just pull out a mattress and just lay, or sleep on the couch, because whānau Māori, we love that. And papa kāinga, we have so many cool examples up here. We have Waitomo up in Te Hiku o Te Eka. We have Ōraro wharo just here in Kaikohekohe. We have another papa kāinga just in Waioomio. And you can see how it brings generations of whānau back home. And that's the dream, mate. We want our whānau place. Like, bro, if I could, I would have my mum next to me, my siblings and everything. Of course, we have little run-ins here and there.
But that's why you just have your own little space. Just go and regulate it. Just sort of where,
not too close, but just a little bit farther. Oh, man, I would love it. And, if I needed fried bread, I'd just say, open the window, Mum, can you make us some prawa prai? But I reckon, and I truly believe, that's the vision for all of our whānau. And I can see it, especially after COVID, a lot of whānau are moving home. We're trying to find out who we are, where we belong, and how we can reconnect with our whānau. It's very important.
Oh, me ana kia koe, bro, for the mahi that you are doing, and congratulations on actually getting back into council again. And let's segue, bro, into, the next part of like life, which is, around my Taiao and the pāki that's been around for a little while there. And, it's got a good reputation in terms of the quality, but also the feel, and as well as just what the brand represents, bro. And so how long has that kaupapa been going on for? And also, like, where are you at with it at the moment, bro?
Yeah, Taiao's been running for probably just over 5 years ago. It actually started as a concept to be able to create wānanga, to create funds for wānanga, because I was doing my Masters in Education at the time through Te Wānanga or Tāmati Rākena.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have a support network up there, up here. Down in Tāmaki or wherever the central cities are, Waikato, Poneke, Christchurch, everywhere you've got your uni base, and so you have heaps of support. Here in the far north, we didn't have anything, so we thought, let's start up a kaupapa where we can kohi pūtea and where we can start wānanga. And so that's where the kākahu came from. And I love the Taiao. I love getting out and fishing and doing all that sort of stuff. And it just authentically and naturally just evolved over time to what it currently is at the moment. So yeah, we started off with outdoor bushwear kākahu, and then now we've sort of branched out into doing contracts, but really the contracts are focused still on what we had laid down as a tuapapa, as a foundation, was to increase mātauranga Māori and to be able to share that with all our whānau and to normalise or revitalise te reo Māori or te reo o te kāinga.
Wow, cool. So that's the bigger picture. So the kākahu is one part, but that's the overarching.
Yeah, we always talk about the kākahu as just a waka.
Yeah.
And the kākahu are able to, and it's a good foundation to be able to carry what comes year after year after year. And I always say that, people are like, you're the director or the founding or the CEO. I just say, because I'm just the kaitiaki for this period, and there'll be a time where my tamariki or someone else comes along and they pick up the hoi and they roll it to wherever it needs to go, whether it needs to carry on to a Hawaii ho or, whatever. But it's been a really cool journey, and to be able to make these connections as well with all our whānau.
It's like a bridge, bro. It's like a waka, it's a bridge, and when I was doing kai, even I can use this context. It's, there's the mahi of the thing, but there's a way to be able to connect with people, to be able to go a little bit ruku way, ruku into the bigger wānanga that actually comes into it. And so, when I think about Taiao, bro, their vest, comes to mind, and I've been putting it to use, brother.
I've seen you out there.
I went out there, bro. I've got a deer, and I've been out there fishing. So I reckon if you want to get into mahi kai, that's the gear that you want to get. Even if you don't do it, that will definitely inspire you.
Even if you're just going to the shopping malls, get kai, man, that still counts.
And it's a segue into the new merch that has come out, bro, which is the speedo stuff. Because I've been seeing the photos and man, they're coming out, because that's quite bold for a Māori to be in budget.
You know what? That is very bold. But even, thinking back to a lot of your kōrero, because I've seen your pods and I've listened to your kōrero, and I really appreciate the way that you encourage us as tāne to not be kuhu, not to hide away, not to be ashamed of ourselves, because we always talk about this, especially in Aotearoa, we're like, tall poppy syndrome, we're running the bows down.
Yeah.
I'm like, cuz, and I know you too yourself, you've got your home gym set up, your wifey's training with you, if the baby's in there, you make them do some little push-ups and everything. So, we work hard for all these things. We take care of our hauora. We eat the right things. We look after we're great fathers. All of these cool things. But the moment we want to celebrate, the moment we want to celebrate ourselves, whether it's wearing a singlet or, wearing unducks, just, we get run down for it. And I'm like, cuz. But you have like one of my other cousins, who's doing like the total opposite. I won't say what they are. Doing the total opposite. Multiple tamariki to multiple wahine, all these sort of things. Yet they're allowed to do whatever they want and they get away with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to say, you know what? Stuff you. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do it. The unducks, the speedos, the men's swimwear, it's been on my mind. It's been on the puka for a long time.
But it was quite cool how you actually came about it though too, because you brought the playfulness to it. And that's the good stuff that I guess resonates. Is like, bro, just have a crack, be yourself, and because it is quite uncomfortable for Māori, I suppose, and I might be like stereotyping here. But, to be quite out there and loud and even, because the whakaaro will be like, hey, what are you up to?
Yeah.
tara, 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 tara,
Yeah.
tara, tara, tara.
Yeah.
But when you look over the ocean, far out, just out there, eh? You know, it's more common to see a man in budgies than in boardies in any other part of the world.
Yeah,
but
check
here
out.
in Aotearoa,
Yeah.
so good on you, bro, for doing that. I saw them over there too. I was like, bro, those are freaking awesome, bro.
Yeah. No,
helps with the pūhoro though too.
yeah, really. Oh, yeah, we're in the club. But yeah, even some of my bros, it took them a little while, and then when they went up online, and some of the names that came up that had purchased them, I was like, oh, the bros actually keen on some, and so they haven't put out any photos, or they've actually sent photos to me, but they said, oh, cuz,
not out there.
But it's a start.
It's
a start, and so I think that's part of it too, as
baby steps, eh?
Yeah, baby steps. Our wahine, they get to do all these cool little things for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, let's do something cool for the bros.
Bro, I'm with it, bro. I'm with it. Self-care in a different way, eh, bro?
Te marika, bro.
Oh, and it's been great to see, you and your wahine doing your fellas training, and I seen you fellas got a bit of a home set up as well.
Yep.
And it's great when you're in that kind of space, eh? When you're feeling great, you're looking well, but you're also giving back to your tinana. But when you're doing it with your partner, that's even better too, eh? Because you're seeing them grow and you're feeling good about things, and so there's something within that. Can you talk about your hauora journey, bro, in terms of what you like to do and I guess how it feeds your wairua and also tinana and hinengaro?
Yeah, that's hauora. We always talk about hauora, waiora, and then the combining of the both, you create what we call haumanu, which is the elixir of life. Waiora, haura, ka hono ngā mea e rua, and then you get haumanu. And so that's always my focus in life. I've always loved going to the gym. I love any type of training, whether it's, and I don't have to be good at it. I always say this, I don't have to be the man at it, but I just have to be able to do it. And so whether it's running, swimming, CrossFit, high rocks, anything, whatever, bro, just that part of being able to release some tension and actually have some really good laughs. 6 a.m. every morning, the bros come over home, and we're pumping weights, but at the same time, we're just cracking up. We're like running each other down, we're spotting each other. But I think it's really, really important, and it's a good way to show the loves of our life. That, this is the journey that we're on, and this is what I want to be doing when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80, right up until I'm not here anymore. But like I said earlier on, the cool thing is that your tamariki get to watch you.
That's right.
I mean, I didn't grow up with this stuff, and I don't want to say too much, but, I grew up going to quite a few parties, which I would assume a lot of my generation did as well, and probably some of our tamariki still do now, and our older generation. And the same thing, I don't want that for my tamariki. And so we can show our tamariki what's normal now, whether it's wearing unducks, to the local creek or to the beach. Whether it's creating a pakihi, whether it's being a kai kōrero, or just going for a run or lifting some weights, that's normalized, and that they don't have to be ashamed about that. Because even when I think back like to a few years ago, had a couple of the bros been like, this fella, you sort of get shamed out for having your prep meal. You go to Kaupapa, or you go to, when I think back to 2013, when we're getting ready for matatini, we take our own little pack coat to our wānanga, because you want to look primo on stage. The
That's
bros,
all part of it.
you have the bros looking at you and like, oh, what's that guy? You're a rabbit now. But fast forward to now, everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing the hikoi kaupapa, they're doing the 10K steps, they're doing all that sort of stuff. So,
that's a good trend to be on, though, just hauora or haumanu. I like that.
Yeah.
The way I was getting with that is when that came to mind, that just like more wholesome, or holistic. That kind of ahua, which is mean, because you're hitting, it's not just about exercise. Because I was sharing this last night with the bro teeps, is that when you do one thing, it leads into another thing. So if you're training well, you want to eat better or you want to go to sleep. So you prioritize things differently if one thing is already going hard. And I see that happening in my life, and I see that as a theme of what's happening in other people. And another thing came to mind as you're having a kōrero, and I shared this with my beautiful darling, and it was this reel, and it was, people break up and then look after themselves. But why not look after yourself to be well for your significant other,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So it was like a kōrero around, don't wait to break up to look after yourself. Bloody hell, like work on yourself so you can be better for one another.
Yeah.
And so that resonated deeply with me because I love training with any partner, and I like it when we're both in that space together because, we should have that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's just like a good way to be, you know?
Yeah, it is. We have some cool conversations too.
Yeah.
You know, obviously might turn around every now and then and be like, "Oh, you're supposed to spot me," or you know, I'm on my like 12th rep, then she's going 7. Yeah.
7.
I actually told her that last week. I was like, "Bro, I'm here. Be like Betty. Spot me, count me." Oh, that actually happened last week. But, you know, it's such a cool thing. And we always talk about getting old, eh? It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to be able to look back when I'm, you know, older and say, we had some primo times.
And we squeezed it, eh? Squeezing that juice out.
Yeah.
You know? And oranga needs to be, it should be, or it's encouraged to have that as like a center foundation, you know, because if you are in a good space in your well-being, then it does tend to trickle out into other areas. Yeah,
it's that look good, feel good, and you can really see within a person. I'll use yourself, for example. You know, you can actually see you just lighting up. Your persona, your wairua, your Māori, you can actually feel it in a person.
You can.
You know, you were out there, you were like 10 meters away from me, bro, but I was like, I need to go say kia ora. You know, I could see you, Rāwhitiro, teams, you know, all the bros, all the sis, you know, your wairua was so good. And I actually seen, you know, quite a few of my whanauna from the kainga here, you know, last year, they weren't on the kaupapa that they're on now, but now that they're on the kaupapa, you can really feel a wairua, and you know, so it doesn't just affect you, but it actually radiates to everyone that's around you, hopefully, and then they get on the waka with you as well.
Yeah, man.
You know, that's powerful.
It is there, and there's actually like the force field around each and every person, and whatever's happening internally, that's what's emanating externally. So, and that travels so far. Yeah. Like if a person can walk in the room and they can give energy to the room, or a person can walk into the room and just take the energy out, you know, and so that's just talking, I suppose, to the vibe that people can pick up on. And another thing that would be cool to speak into, bro, is Fatherhood. And I know that's a big part for you, and I was talking to your wahine, and she was saying that, you know, you're even on the board at Kura to help, you know.
I'm taking over the world one board at a time.
You know, but because you're so passionate about all of these different things, you interject in spaces that allow you to do the mahi that, you know, that is purposeful, but Fatherhood is one of them. And, you know, for you guys, what are some of the things that you've experienced as a papa, bro, and like what are you still learning in that space?
I think one of the biggest learnings for me as a papa, especially with my tamariki. So we have 3 tamariki. Our eldest boy is actually on the autism spectrum.
Yeah. Te kupu Māori, bro?
Takiwātanga. You know, and I actually reflect on my behavior when I was young, and I reckon this is for quite a few of me and my bros, you know, the ADHD part and Takiwātanga was just never acknowledged back then, and there's not enough research to actually show how many of us were brought up with it or still have it. But yeah, so we have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a soon-to-be 3-year-old.
I heard we share the same experience of being on a single bed, bro.
Our
kids have our bed.
I don't even try and sleep with my friend. I'm happy on the couch, to be honest. It's either hanging on the edge of the bed, just go somewhere else.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm comfortable with that. But
used to it now.
I'm so used to it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I've learned is that you can't rush your tamariki. You can't rush your tamariki. They're always evolving. They're always learning. They're always curious. And yeah, of course I snap. You know, I'm not going to be teko or anything. I'm real harsh on my tamariki. I make sure that they stay in line. Yeah. But a lot of my time is spent actually appreciating, you know, those moments, where you're like sitting there and you're just looking at your kids and you're like, fuck.
There's so many of those moments
Yeah.
too, eh? Really, if you're present enough to catch it.
Yeah.
It's so mean.
I just look at my babies and I'm like, fuck, how many are you going to be 10 in 2 more years? Or like, trying to imagine them as young teens and as young adults. But it's that for me. If I had to consolidate all of the learnings, is that I don't want to rush my tamariki into being something that they might not be. I would love for my 6-year-old toro, who's always on my socials, who is the biggest talker in our family, I would love for him to be the meanest whai kōrero, kai kōrero. I would love for him to be able to recite whakapapa. I would love for him to do all of these great things. But the reality is that you still got to let them be babies, eh?
Yeah, for sometimes we try and rush our kids into spaces that they aren't even at yet.
No,
Yeah.
I think, maybe I'll just put the assumption out there. For me personally, I think that maybe we want to do that because we want to showcase how smart our tamariki are.
True.
We want to showcase to the world. And now that social media is such a big thing, we actually want to showcase to the world.
A more performative than that scenario, or can be, eh?
Yeah.
Can.
I mean, like a lot of all of the content that I put out of my boy Toro, it's just him talking about feeding the tuna and then he gets pushed in by the little baby.
True.
Not planned or anything, but
yeah,
we really have to take care of our babies' developmental stages and allow them to have that space, because with the way that technology is going, and we all have that part within us, or actually my partner does, to give them time on the iPad or time on the phone, just to let them have time to sit down and let us actually have a conversation. But I think as assisting with pushing them forward more years than what they're supposed to be at the moment, because they're exposed to things that they shouldn't be seeing and they shouldn't be hearing as well. I get upset when I see my boy, flicking through YouTube. I'm like, oi, haka kore ngia tēnā, puta koe ki waho. But so we really have to be careful about what our tamariki.
That's something I'm pretty hard on too, and more so having screen time. There's space for it, but one of my biggest things that I'm really hard on is like the what. So, if he's on YouTube Kids is okay for me, but when he's on like YouTube Adult and he's on the shorts, that's the stuff I don't like. Shorts, like the TikTok, any kind of shorts, I just get real hoha about that, because there's no way to actually monitor or restrict what comes up in those kinds of short things, and also what happens cognitively too. So there's all of those kinds of things that I suppose most mātua are aware of or trying to mitigate it as much as possible. But what's it like for you, bro? What are some of the learnings? Because I know there are some whānau that I even work closely with, and there are people who probably listen who have tamariki who are he Takiwātanga, bro. And so what are some of the things that you have learned in your journey, and to go as far as going on school, but to help with them to be able to create support, so like what are some kōrero in regards to that?
I mean, we've been fortunate over the years to be able to have whānau in and around our kainga of kaikohe that alerted us in the first place to say, because their eldest boy has Takiwātanga, and so our baby was displaying the same behaviour, and so they actually had a wānanga, this couple, and they said, we really need to tell Tāmati and Jude about this, because we want to be able to prepare them for what's to come. And so for them, I really acknowledge and appreciate the aroha that they had for us at the time to be able to come forward. It can't be a hard thing to be able to tell your mates, cuz I think your baby's, Takiwātanga, because you don't know how they're going to react, with that denial, with that, my baby's bloody genius, don't say that, we're not friends. But we were really, really lucky to have those friends, and we still have them. We hold them closely and dearly. What that helped us to do was prepare for the no funding, prepare for the no support, prepare for the kura, the schools, the daycare centres who don't have a plan in place, and the teachers as well. I really, really feel sorry for them, because myself, I have an education background as well. We did not learn one thing about our tamariki Takiwātanga or special needs none of that, and so it's something that our kaiako, our kura and our tumuaki are just learning about and are quickly trying to implement within their mahi rautaki and adapt their learning program as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so what I would say to a lot of our parents out there is that, it's a really tough road and you have to be consistent, you have to be strong, cry. We've been in so many where we've just poured out in tears because it's so frustrating that our baby's hitting other tamariki for we don't know what the reasons are. It's because he's trying to communicate. It's because, it's too hot. It's because it's too loud. It's because the lights are too bright. So we're trying to understand that. The kaiako, they're trying to do their best. My baby's hitting other tamariki, and I'm just like, I feel sorry for that baby. I also feel sorry for the parents who probably think my tamariki is a little blimmin', a little Tasmanian devil, and probably think that the parents are teaching him how to hit other tamariki. So it's really a huge sphere of trying to protect your whānau and at the same time protect the other whānau and school them up or educate our whānau. But it's such a,
I can feel that. Feel that, particularly the arohaki tō tamaiti. And, even for me, feeling like, because it's one of those things that you just care deeply about, is kare tuatu te arohaki tō tamariki, and so when those kinds of things are happening, and there was an incident that happened with my big boy just recently where he was having a kai and he got just scratched on the face from another tamaiti, and we know that happened, but it was just more so around okay, kete, first and foremost, is baby okay? And then, wanting to not necessarily go in guns blazing, but it was just more to understand. Because there's been incidents where my boys,
it happens with our tamariki.
Where my tamariki has hit another kere kohanga, and my reaction in that was, letting them know that wasn't okay, but also wanting to go into kohanga and just being like, if the parents want to kōrero, then I'm open to it. I want to have that kōrero, because I want you guys to know that, where he's coming from or whatever it might be, or even just to be able to unleash or whatever that looks like. And I just wanted to open that kuaha.
That's key,
because it's just good, I suppose, for us as parents to be able to have those connections rather than looking at our tamariki and what they're doing on the surface and thinking that they know what they're actually up to all the time. But I think that's important for us in those spaces that, yes, our tamariki are sometimes going to be on the receiving end, but they might also be on the other end. So we can't act as though they're always on just one side.
We got to understand what are the contributing factors to the way that they're behaving, and also the other tamariki as well. And then we never know what's going on in their households as well. We can't be quick to assume that that baby's just naughty. That baby, they're this, they're that, all those sort of things. It's really unpacking and understanding what's happening at home with our tamariki as well. Have they been fed? Have they had a proper sleep?
There's so many of those little things that actually contribute to a moment.
And we've been, like I said, really fortunate to have the support of our friends, have the support of our mete, Jess Hita, who actually, through her kaupapa, they go around and they help to educate kaiako, they help to educate kura, because it's very important that we understand the different developmental stages and the cognitive stages as well of our tamariki and where they're at in terms of their age and their learning abilities. And now that we've been in the kura for 4 years now, we've been able to establish some really, really strong relationships and understandings between our whānau, the kaiako, the RTLBs, and ensuring that we have the right funding in place, that we have the right support mechanisms in place. And that actually the tumuaki understands, that the rest of the board understands. My biggest kaupapa at the moment, and we've been able to identify this just in the last year, is that it's not just our boy. There's many more tamariki
within the kura
who were there before him that are on the autism spectrum as well. Some of them with high needs, some of them with lower needs. And so it really needs to be addressed, eh? And so that's just one kura.
Yeah, exactly.
It really needs to be addressed because if we want to ensure that our tamariki are safe and that they have the same support, and that they have the same learning outcomes, whether, it doesn't have to be 100 times million, you should know that, but it has to be assisting them in a way that supports their needs and what their interests are. My boy, he loves dinosaurs, he loves mokonui. He can name all of the different ones, and I actually check up on him. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, pterodactyl. And he's like, ka hore papa, he pteranodon tera.
Oh,
So all those cool little things. So our kaiako, they know that, and they've known that for the last 3 years now, and they're like, oh, actually, we'll just structure his learning around what he's interested in.
Yeah, cool.
Never mind the tahi tāpiri tahi. That'll come in time, and it has. Like he's writing his name. He's learning how to count with all his mokonui, and he actually has little anahira, his little angels who look after him at kura. But last year we had another big, not a meltdown, but a bit of a tangi of acknowledgement of how far he's come and actually how far we've come as a whānau to be able to get him to that stage. But we want to be able to put something solid in place because it's no use just focusing on our baby because we know that there's more tamariki to come through the kura system that are going to come in with all those needs. So we're like, ka pai, we've got this far with our baby. Let's make a plan. Let's make it solid within the kura so that when more tamariki come in with needs, that they have the right support and the right assistance.
That's awesome, man. Mihi ana ki po tamaiti, bro. And the thing with I think about that is how our a perceived setback can be a great foundation for what can happen ahead. And that's like we can look at certain experiences and be like, poor me, but then once we lean into it, it can be the thing that we actually needed to go forward. And so it's great that, your guys' huarahi has been the foundation to support so many others that could even happen in a short term, but over a period of time because of what you guys are going through or navigating through as a whānau, bro. So that's awesome, man. Yeah. And to, I guess, segue, bro, to wrap us up into this kōrero was more so around just being a tāne Māori and, some of the challenges that come. And, we've spoken about the plates that you spin, the hats that you wear, and just one of those roles would be pretty mean, but you've actually, you spread yourself across many things, bro. And we were talking just before we press record and you're like, oh, bro, get the ngengi hoki, there's a quietness and there's a fatigue. So
I'm like,
so, what are some of the things that you either are challenged with, bro, or like what are some of the things that you feel as though when you're feeling like run down or feeling the overwhelmed or feeling stretched, like what are some of the things that you're aware of or the challenges that come up, or even if you want to go the route of if you're aware of it, what do you do to whakanoa or to maurito? So yeah, bro, what has been a tāne Māori, a businessman, papa, wharangatira,
wannabe fisherman, wannabe I'd have to say that my biggest rongoa, and you're probably the same as well, bro, would be the missus. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now. She was the one who actually pushed me and continues to push me to do more. And she knows that when she's pushing too hard, just to pull back a little bit. But, I was never interested in uni and education. I actually thought that I had UE when I went to apply to get into uni. I didn't have any of that. I had to do special little things to be able to get into uni. Speech language, being on radio, being on TV, even coming into council, all these things. I think naturally, as a lot of our whānau Māori do, we're like, nah, I'm not brainy enough for that. Like, oh, you should go and do this. Nah, I'm not. Too dumb for that. But, I really have to acknowledge the amount of work that she's put into me. I it's just like the seed was already planted, but it was never taken care of properly to be able to grow into the person that I am today. And you're absolutely right, bro. I'm spread across so many kaupapa that it can be hard to come back down to earth and actually work on myself as tāne Māori, and to be able to have some free time to myself. So yeah, it's either just working out. I love a good workout, or just getting out fishing, diving with the pros. And that's what we've planned for this weekend as well, bro. You know, after such a big week, being here in Waitangi, supporting the haukainga, supporting all the kaupapa, and being here, showing face, having the talks, is to actually kapai. Mutu ana tēnei wiki, let's get out, let's have a dive with the boys, you know, let's talk some shit, all that sort of stuff, and, you know, we can come back to shore and swim with our tamariki. So that's what really brings me back down to earth, and then I'm set for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, you know, before I can...
The reset.
Yeah, it's always the reset. But yeah, and I would assume that it's the same for a lot of our tāne. Send the bro Rāwhitiroa out there, and I said, bro, you're looking so good, man. And I love sharing that with the bros too, eh?
Yeah. Hard out.
I love saying, you know, even when I saw you, I was like, bro, you're looking good.
Yeah.
And that good stuff, hauora. But yeah, it's all that. It's doing all the things that make you feel good. It's the things that resonate. It's being able to shine your light on other people and pull in the energy if you need a little bit of a boost. But we all need that, and let's not forget that we need time to ourselves. Let's not forget. Absolutely not forget that.
Meke, bro. One last question that came to mind as you're having that kōrero, bro, ka whakakapi, is if there was one thing, you know, because, you know, you gave a big mihi to your wahine for giving you that nudge into all of these different things, but is there one thing that you already knew about yourself that I guess gave you even more encouragement to try?
I said this earlier on, actually. You know, as Māori, we're naturally talented anyway. Give us a helicopter, we'll fly it. You know, our tupuna, they navigated te moana nui a kiwa, following the currents, the stars, the migration patterns of tohoraha, of manu, of the kuaka. So when I think about your question now, I think back to, actually, this is not just within the short lifespan that I've had on this earth, what I have, the talent that, you know, not boasting, but what I'm able to provide my whānau with, I guess, as it's been an existing mode, it's been an existing taonga. No mai rano, my job at the moment is to be able to pass that on and to be able to share that with everyone. Don't be a matapiko. Don't be up on what Jude has helped to do is to shine more light on the areas that I couldn't see in my life. She actually had a look at my CV early on in our relationship, and she looked at it and she was like, holy crap, I've cracked it. He's done heaps of jobs. He's got heaps of skills. But what she was able to do with that is put it into something tangible, practical, and now we have all the outcomes that we have at the moment. And I look forward to the future. I look forward to contributing more and to give back to our whānau, and actually growing a lot of our bros and growing a lot of our babies as well, because we are the now, we are the future, but we need to be able to pass it on and tautoko the rest of our whānau.
What a beautiful answer, brother. And, you know, just to hear that it's already existing and it has existed, that sense of talent, that sense of belonging, that sense of drive. And so, you know, for you to be able to do what it is that you're doing, looking the way that you're looking, thriving the way that you're thriving.
Let's hope that we're looking like this next year.
But that's the best probably contribution that we could give to anyone or anything, bro, is showing up as ourselves and doing our best in that endeavor. And, you know, you're a great example of that, bro. So, mihi nui ana kia koe. Thank you for gracing our table for this kaupapa, for this kōrero, bro. And I'm sure there's people out there who have taken something from it. And I'm going to leave the link to Taiao below, brothers. Go and grab their Taiao Speedo, their budgie. Feel proud. And if you're keen on hunting, get their vest. But also, you know, just look at some of the other mahi that they're doing across the board. So, tēnā koe, brother, into the whānau. Che.
Mauri ora.
Yeah. Make it, brother.